All right. What y'all think about the everything that I dropped yesterday? Dropped a lot yesterday. Um, yeah, dropped 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10. Dropped 17 charts yesterday. Very time consuming. Very time consuming. Um, it's also a big reason why I like to keep my pairs to the minimum, right? At least the pairs that I like to trade on a regular basis. Just because, like, for example, that back test I did on EU, right? Imagine doing that every week for 5 pairs, right? Just so you guys have something to base this on. These markups, right? Just the EU markups took me about an hour and 30 to 45 minutes, almost 2 hours. Yeah, it was like an hour 30, an hour 40. Um, yeah. So imagine having to do this with, um, for example, for me, it would be EU, EG, GU, right? But I didn't trade EG. GU's just been sloppy to me. And EU had moves, but not moves that appealed to me. So that's why I backtested EU for the week, right? EG, we've been talking about that for a good couple weeks now. Yeah, honestly, this is where you're gonna learn a lot, right? This is the difference maker. This is like, for example, there's people that have been in the group for probably 4 to 5 months, but they didn't, understand what they understood then to compare it to what they understood now. And that makes no sense, right? If you're going off the theory, right, that it's the same material, right? That's just the longevity aspect to this, right? You may not understand what an SE is your first 2 months, but just because you're reviewing the same information does not mean you're going to get the same result. Why? Because experience tells you a lot. Right, so now back to this. All right, DXY. We spoke about, I think it was H8. All right, so this was the narrative, right, that we could have played off of, right? But because we said, right, that this entire leg here had already broken, right? That's why you could have considered the continuation, right? Didn't reach that deep, but, right, maybe that says something, right? Just because it doesn't reach as soon as you want it to doesn't mean it won't reach eventually, right? That's the cool thing about POIs. So now we're at a pretty decent point of interest because we have taken out. Hold on, guys. Hold on. Ma, estoy haciendo cosas. Sorry, guys. But yeah. Anyways, all right. Something that is appealing to me is obviously this, right? Equal highs. Those have been purged. Right? Even if they weren't equal, right? This would have been your point of liquidity, and that's been cleared, right? And that's showing incentive to want to move higher, right? In the aspect that you're considering this entire range, right? And this would be a discount continuation. But truth is, right, is that there's also the counter view to this, right? We've rejected from here, right? Not the most even line, but you guys see it, right? This is the weekly inefficiency fill that we've been talking about for the past couple weeks. And if you want to look at it from that perspective, that narrative, right? The inefficiency fill is here, right? This is the move that caused us to reach that inefficiency, right? And this entire leg has now broken that structure, right? This could only be a pullback to take out liquidity and look for something inside of a premium, right? So it's already in a premium and it's already rejected a potential POI. The only POIs that are appealing are potentially somewhere this wick or potentially somewhere this wick. So this could be the 50% of whatever SC is there, because the open hasn't been tapped either, right? And there's also this wick that takes out a previous wick and probably mitigated potentially something inside of that range. So let's actually check that out. So liquidity has been cleared. All right. If I'm looking at just simple continuations of order flow here, all right, this would have been what mitigated whatever's over here. This mitigated that, that mitigated that, this mitigated that. All right, now this mitigated this, and then this took out the liquidity, right? And we haven't came back even to the open. All right, so this could be a lot more appealing, right? And so this could play off of the narrative of the rejection that we just saw. All right, because this is that H4 wick. All right, could have been even an efficiency fill here. All right, and we've already tapped that. Wow. See that? So this has already tapped, right? This mitigated whatever move reached to the inefficiency. Perfect. Right. So based off of order flow, the only way for this to be considered now bearish is if we react from this POI and we take out the low that it creates, right? So this reaction is showing bearish order flow to the downside, right? We've already broken this minor point here. This is a minor structure break, probably M5, M3. So it'd be considered maybe like a scalping break, maybe minor intraday, maybe. So we closed off at a potential POI for the continuation. Why? Because we could play, there's two scenarios here. There's a scenario of bearish order flow coming into play, right? And we take this out. Now we are considered in bearish structure, because we tapped the POI, mitigated the move that led to the POI, and we mitigated that, right, to then create the structure break that shows bearish order flow. So there's a scenario, right, that we could be playing the continuation here, right, from this high to this low, break of structure, right, and we come back to potential POI to then continue higher, right? So there's that narrative, or it's this other narrative that we're speaking on, and this reacts and takes out previous structure point, right? And then that shows that this was the unwillingness to continue higher, right, because of the bearish order flow coming into play, which then leads to the structure break, right, which would then, if this point breaks, then we can easily start targeting these lows, right? So it's a more so if this then that, right? If this continues higher, I'm pretty much not interested. Only interested if this goes lower, right? And then best case, you could see some type of drop in the dollar from election time, right? Who's to say we don't get Monday and Tuesday to give us a structure break and then give us an entry, and then who's to say Wednesday doesn't just tank this to the ground, right? There's always also the scenario where this can continue, right? And then make this rally from the elections. So personally, I'm waiting to see what type of reaction we'll get and then go from there. GU also the confusing one, right? So reason why I wasn't even looking at this, right, is if I'm looking at structure, right, we were talking about this was your momentum shift, right? We took out previous levels of structure. This could be considered an accumulation, very sloppy accumulation, pre-supply selling climax, secondary test, LPS, right, SOS, BU, LPS, continuation. So we have a range, we have an incentive to continue higher, right? Very strong momentum, right? So the only way for this to continue, in my eyes, would have been, right, potential point here where this is what led to that full structure break, and there is a pretty much a stallment in price, so there could be some type of quote unquote money there, right? So this POI reacted here, break of structure, followed through, but it was just a liquidity grab. So once this failed, this entire POI failed, and so now you're technically bearish, right? Especially looking at intraday time frames. Right after the liquidity grab, we had a clean structure break here, clean structure break, right? Ended up bottoming out here, high to the low, right? Clear liquidity, right? To then continue lower, right? But remember what I've been saying, right? This point did not create a structure low, so this is now point of liquidity, right? Came back to take the liquidity, right? Now actually breaks the low, right? So this is now your range to play from, right? This is a premium, right? Whatever, this could have been liquidity grab, right? And then you just play smaller time frames, and then that led to the huge drop, right? So do y'all see how that rule actually is applying itself into many different pairs, right? This is our high, but we didn't break our low, right? So this is now a future point of liquidity, right? And then liquidity grab, continuation, premium, continuation, premium, continuation. Just simple continuations at that point, right? But that all originated from this. You have to recognize scenarios like this, right? Potential POI, we've already rejected, right? And caused the reaction of the reaction, which led to this follow through, but the follow through was not strong enough, which led to a structure break. So that entire bullish bias is now invalid in my eyes, right? But like I said, I don't want to be bearish on these pairs, so I wasn't really too worried about trying to catch these continuation sells, because there could obviously be the scenario where this is the rejection of this structure, these two structure points here, right? So if this does not create a low and we take out the high, that is now a structure break, right? And if it comes from here to here, this is now my structure range to then want to look for continuations, right? So it's all about trying to make sense, right, out of reactions and how that correlates to structure. What are you talking about? Weekly. Oh yeah, I mean, those bearish scenarios were playing off of this. And honestly, it might look like it wants to break, because we've gotten the incentive, which is here. Because your weekly inefficiency, let's knit that out. All right, so you have to assume continuation of structure, right? Like I said, this would have been a potential POI for me because price struggles here and then continues higher, which means this could have been a reaccumulation, could have just been just anything of that nature, right? So this reaction, right, is to play the narrative that this is the continuation of this overall structure bias, and that reacted, pulled back, caused another reaction, took structure, but immediately came back, right? So this would have been a full structure break, liquidity grab, right? We now then bottom out here, right? And is this considered a premium? Probably just around equilibrium, I think. Yeah, a little bit inside a premium, right? So this, like I said, this reaction does not break a low, right? So this is a liquidity point, and this is also a liquidity point because we did not break lows, right? Structure then comes to take out liquidity, right? Then comes, actually takes out a type of low here, right? And then now this is just your premium play inside of this range here, which led to that downside move. I would not have taken that from the top, bro. You're asking for a couple of losses if you're looking for that high there. Just being honest. It's trying to find M1 structure breaks off of a weekly inefficiency that make not much sense to me, because those are pretty high risk. So you have to let intraday tell you your story of the day in order for you to in order to have that support the weekly bias. UK is going into national lockdown. Yeah. Honestly, I think that would be... Honestly, all of Europe is doing that. Isn't France doing that too? So I'd like to see Euro go to shit. Yeah, I'd like to see the Euro just go to shit. Right, and that's why I've been more appealed to EG this entire time. Right, the structure made sense. The overall bias made sense. Right, what's happening in the world makes sense. Right, just for this overall bias. Right. Here's basic structure. Unwillingness there. This came back. Right, here's another good example. I think this is one I mentioned too. Right, so you're inside this range. Oh, not this range, I'm sorry. Right, you're inside this range and you're playing this reaction. Right, this is the mitigation of the potential reaction, maybe. Right, but this point did not break structure. So came back to liquidity grab and then continue, because that structure break did not occur. It's something I see more in GBPs though, to be honest. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I don't really have much to cover today, because I already showed you guys the entire EU breakdown. We've been talking about EG all week. Alright, I just explained GU. Right, so there's not much to talk about today. Alright, so you guys have any questions? Why you got 2 times your pairs? Different brokers. I just like comparing price, and I like how ENDA doesn't have gaps. So I just like to compare price. Nothing crazy, nothing interesting, to be honest. But yeah, other than that, I mean, if you guys don't have any questions, I have a couple of new guys. Right, so the new guys, just make sure you watch last Saturday's Zoom and make sure you follow the process inside the Discord. Yeah, so last Saturday was the 24th, was it? Yeah, 24th. Make sure you guys watch the 24th Zoom. How are the new videos coming along? Don't ask me about them, please. They're coming, just don't ask about them. I don't like being rushed. But yeah, other than that, do you guys have any questions? Where are the dogs at? Probably sleeping. How do you push the news into trading? Do you see me talk about news? Exactly. There you go. Don't remember the last time I checked Forex Factory, to be honest. News isn't what it used to be. Like back in late 2018, um, news was so much different. You would actually see moves from news. Now, it's, nothing. Like, look at NFP. NFP doesn't do shit. If you've seen a good setup, H1 after overlap, would you take it? I'm gonna let you figure that one out, bro. Yeah, NFP used to be wild. I don't go off what ifs, Harris. That's for you to figure out. You have to look at the time. You have to look at your back-tested pairs, right? You have to look at when you trade. You have to look at when possibly trades can happen, right? That's the point of the whole back test that I showed you yesterday. That's the whole point. So I can see when trades happen, how they happen, why they happen. NFP, yeah, NFP used to be crazy back then. I actually used to trade news back then, right? Because I realized pretty early that news was predetermined. So if the setup sets itself up um, before the news event, then it's usually pretty easy to predict. Also, just by judging previous numbers, but I don't do that anymore. I think that's a form of guessing. I used to be so triggered by people that did buy stop, sell stop. I was super, super against that. Yeah, and you know how many people blew their accounts because of stuff like that? You would have that occasional whiplash that just raped you in both directions. Yeah, whiplash. I used to do that. I used to definitely try to catch lows from them if it made sense. Because two things would usually happen for me with news. It would either the setup would show itself prior, and the news event would just make it go in the direction that it was meant to go, and if it doesn't, right, if it just goes the other way, it'll probably wick that, and then it would reject and go the other way. So that's how I used to play it back then. AUD news, definite. That's how I used to play AUD news. Those are the only news that I really traded. AUD, maybe NZD. But yeah. Oh, actually, I didn't even tell you guys. Um, I'm actually feeling healthy this call and not dead. That's because I've had COVID for 2 weeks, guys. I didn't want to say anything, but I've had COVID for 2 weeks. That shit is not fun. Have any of y'all gotten it? Yeah. I didn't want to make an excuse for not having to get on the calls. So I think COVID would be a stupid excuse. All it is nausea and a couple coughs and headaches. Yeah, I'm good now. I'm definitely, yeah, I feel good now. You got it too. No symptoms. Good. Lucky. Lucky. No, the symptoms are ass. Yeah, I had really bad symptoms one night. I was just coughing nasty. It was a Saturday night when I just felt nasty. Nasty coughs, nasty headache. I couldn't smell or taste. And then it went away the next day. But yeah, I'm like, after those symptoms, I'm like, yeah, I can see why older people are scared of it. Most definitely. But yeah, I think we can end it off there, guys. Yeah, honestly, I think after elections, we're gonna see markets move normally again. I miss when EU used to actually trend. Right before COVID, this used to trend. Right, because we caught the sell-offs. Oh, the old visionaries. Right, we caught these sell-offs. Right, primarily this one and this one. Right, this is my main sell here, and we caught this entire move. Then we caught this entire move here. I didn't catch this move though, but we caught this one. Good experiences, good experiences. Yeah, 60. I mean, honestly, bro, 61.8 still works. 61.8 works. Like, honestly, you could probably catch a couple 61.8 moves on an intraday basis. At least once, twice a week. Yeah, I'm still not convinced though that this will, even if this breaks this low, I'm not convinced. Right? I'm not convinced. Daily time frame. Look at that. This would be considered. Would that be considered a discount? Yeah, it would be. That's crazy. We haven't even reached equilibrium. Yeah, it does. Yeah, solid. Solid POI. If you have bearish order flow still in play, I would play those bearish moves until here and try to hedge that. Right, obviously, this being a position that you want to hold to take out these highs, but consider it a hedge because bearish order flow is intact. I would go for riskier entries if I'm already in a sell. Right, because you're not putting at risk your account, you're putting at risk your P&L. Profit floating profit. Yeah, but we'll just end it up there, I guess.